Welcome, traveler. If you're hearing this, you've wandered far from the marked routes, far enough that the maps in your pack are starting to feel optional, far enough that the weather has begun to behave like it remembers you. Out here, the mountains don't care who you are, the wind doesn't care how prepared you think you were, and the snow listens more closely than you'd ever expect. There's a place along Crow's Spine Pass where the storms come fast, where the trail bends even though the maps say it shouldn't, and where, if the weather turns suddenly enough, you might stumble onto a shelter that isn't supposed to be there. If you do, go inside, shut the door, and whatever you do, don't breathe too loudly. Let me tell you the story of the last shelter on Crow's Spine Pass. Harlow Pierce wasn't new to the cold. She'd built her small but loyal online following on being that person, the one who hiked when most people didn't. Storm hikes, shoulder season treks, wilderness areas. People don't talk about anymore. Her blog, Northline Tracks, showcased routes most avoided. Crow's Spine Traverse had been on her list for years. Most hikers did it in late summer. Harlow wanted the winter version, empty, untouched, raw. Her plan was 5 days out, sunrise filming over Takat Basin, and a long-form video about the last quiet routes in Alaska. She'd filed a route plan, set 2 check-in times, triple-checked the forecast. She trusted her gear. She trusted her training. At 2:17 p.m. on day 2, the weather betrayed her. The sky dimmed like someone turned down a dial. Her GPS flickered, then died. No signal. A white wall spilled across the basin. Not snow falling, snow moving in a solid sheet. The wind slammed into her like a tidal wave of ice. Visibility vanished. The trail disappeared. Her world became white noise and pain. She fought toward where she thought the tree line should be, hand sweeping blindly, until her glove struck wood. A wall, a roof line, a door frame, a shelter that wasn't on any map. She forced the door open, stumbled inside, and shoved it shut behind her. The silence afterward was disorienting. A one-room A-frame cabin, 1 bunk, a table, a wood stove, a lantern, air so cold it felt mined from stone. Her fingers were numb. She dropped to her knees and coaxed the stove until kindling caught, and a small, reluctant flame grew. Heat seeped into the room in small pulses. She stood, rubbing her hands over the warmth, and then she saw it. In the far corner, half buried under a coil of wire and dust, a heavy old radio unit. Her chest loosened. "Okay," she breathed. "Let's see if anyone can hear me." She plugged it in. Nothing. She tapped it. Nothing. Rotated the volume dial. A low hum buzzed through the speakers. Static crackled. Her pulse jumped. "SAR Anchorage, this is Harlow Pierce, broadcasting from an unmarked shelter off Crow's Spine Traverse, requesting confirmation of signal." She waited. Nothing but static. She switched frequencies. And again. And again. Every channel sounded identical. No distortion. No storm flutter. No weak interference. Just perfectly uniform static. She leaned closer, listened hard. For one moment, she thought she heard a faint exhale between the bursts. She snapped the dial off. "Okay," she whispered. "Either the antenna's iced or this thing's been dead for years." The stove hissed behind her. She set a tin pot of water to boil for dinner, then spotted a logbook on the table. "Might as well meet whoever got stuck here before me." She settled on the bunk and opened it. Logbook entry number 1, June 14th, 2012, Crow's Spine Traverse, Day 3. Name Kyle, Red H. Found this little cabin by accident after I lost the trail in the fog. Nice surprise. No marker on my map, but it's solid and dry inside. Stove still works once you coax it a bit. Left some split wood in the corner for the next poor soul who wanders off like I did. Weather's rolling in fast. Going to hole up here tonight and push to the ridge in the morning if it clears. If you're reading this, door sticks a little, give it a shoulder stove draws better if you crack the vent beside it. Not a bad spot to be stuck, all things considered. Harlow exhaled softly. Thanks, Red. She turned the page. Logbook entry number 2, October 3rd, 2014. Name, Sarah M. traveling north toward Takat Pass, stumbled onto this shelter after the wind shifted and the snow came in sideways. Didn't expect weather this early in the season. Cabin's in decent shape. Someone left the place tidy, thank you, whoever Red was. Stove still works, though it smokes a bit before the flue warms. Odd thing. While I was getting my gear sorted, the wind stopped for a few seconds. Not slowed, not eased, stopped. Total silence, like I'd gone deaf. It came back suddenly like someone flicked a switch. Probably nothing. Leaving matches and tea for the next traveler. Harlow paused. Silence like that wasn't normal. She kept reading. Logbook entry number 3, March 22nd, 2016. Name, Thomas K. Snowshoe Crossing. Bit of advice, keep the stove burning, not just for warmth. The wind does strange things when the fire dies. Heard slow, spaced-out knocking on the east wall after sundown. Like fingertips. Went outside, nothing there. Storm doesn't sound friendly tonight. Harlow looked toward the stove. She added more wood. The wind outside shifted, almost reacting. She turned the page with trembling fingers. Logbook entry number 4, January 5th, 2018. Name, LB. Winter crossing attempt. Someone carved words into the back wall. Hers you. Stay quiet. The wind keeps stopping. The silence feels heavy. Something brushed the snow off the lower window. Left a clear patch. Like something looked in. Harlow raised the lantern. First she checked the small lower window. All she could see was nothing but snow. She laughed in an attempt to calm herself down. Good one, LB. But then to move the lantern light to the back wall. The carvings were still there. Hers you. Stay quiet. Don't look. Her stomach dropped. She turned the page. Logbook entry number 5, November 11th, 2019. Name, Colton Reeves. When the wind stops, don't move. Not a breath. Not a step. I shifted my weight during silence. Something hit the wall exactly where I had been sitting. No branch, no debris. It struck with intent, as if the storm were waiting. The wind stopped. Completely. Harlow froze. No breath, no movement. A heavy thud slammed the wall to her left. She nearly screamed. Soon after the wind returned, she could hear what sounded like scraping nails on the side of the cabin. After a moment, she convinced herself it must have been a tree branch that hit the side of the cabin, nothing more than pine branches in the wind. She wiped her eyes with shaking fingers and read on. Logbook entry number 6, February 2nd, 2020. Name, Dana R. Someone called my name. Dana, come outside. I almost opened the door before I remembered. No one knew I was here. If you hear a voice outside, don't answer. I don't think it's a person. As the wind picked up, Harlow listened carefully, but nothing came. Not her name, not a voice, just the wind. She checked her dinner on the stove and sat back down on the bunk and turned the page. Logbook entry number 7, April 18th, 2021. Name, Evan T. When the fire started to dip, something pressed against the door. Not knocking, pressing, like a palm or a shoulder. When I threw more wood in, it backed away. Keep the fire burning. It can tell when the cabin gets cold. Harlow stood and shoved more wood into the stove. A lot more. The wind pulled back as if retreating. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "This can't be happening," she said out loud. "Wait till all my followers hear about this. What a spooky little story it will make." For a moment she thought about putting the book down and ignoring it for the rest of the night. But the temptation was just too much. She couldn't let her followers know she didn't finish reading. Would they lose faith that she was fearless? Would they think a little wind and a storm will stop her? Would her follower count drop? She had worked too hard and too long for a storm to stop her. She took a long, deep breath and flipped the page. Logbook entry, number 8, December 27th, 2021. Name, Jonas P. The latch started to move. Slowly, deliberately. The moment my hand got near it, it jerked upward, then stopped. Do not touch the latch if it moves. It's testing for resistance. Click. She nearly vomited from fear. The latch in Harlow's cabin twitched. She reached for the bear spray and her hatchet in her pack. For a moment she remained on the bunk, looking at the latch, as if it was going to come to life and get her. After a moment her body relaxed. It must have been an odd coincidence. The wind is so strong outside, that is all. Regardless, she didn't go near the door. Looking at the book, she only had a few more pages left. When she is finished, dinner will be ready. She quickly turned the page. Logbook entry number 9, March 3rd, 2022. Name, Kira M. East Ridge Crossing, stranded second night. Second night in this place. Didn't want to stay, but the trail vanished under 3 feet of fresh powder. I can't see more than a few feet from the window. Everything beyond looks like the inside of a snow globe. I've heard strange things the whole night. Whispers in the drift, tapping on the roof beams. But I kept telling myself it was just the storm shifting weight. Until the radio turned on. It's an old unit, heavy, with a cracked dial. I didn't even notice it in the corner when I first arrived. Tonight it popped on by itself, just static at first. Then, beneath the noise, I heard a voice. My voice. It was quiet, like a recording from far away, but I know what I sound like. The cadence, the breath between words. It said one sentence. "Let me in." I threw a blanket over the radio and shoved it inside the cupboard. Then I wrote this. If the radio picks up a clear voice, especially your own, turn it off. It uses the sound to learn you. I'm not sleeping tonight. I can't. The storm is listening. Harlow looked at the old radio in the corner. It was quiet. That wasn't good enough. She walked over, yanked the power cord free from a small battery-powered generator, fumbled the batteries out, and shoved them deep into her backpack. Then she draped a shirt over the radio, as if blinding it. Her own breath sounded loud in the little cabin. She went back to the bunk. Logbook entry number 10, January 29th, 2023. Name, unknown. Initials smeared. RL. Ink shaky. Words pressed hard into the page. Storm hasn't stopped in 2 days. Thought I'd seen bad winters before. But this thing, it's not a storm. Not anymore. I can hear it moving. Not blowing, not shifting. Moving. Dragging itself along the walls like it's feeling for a weak spot. A few hours ago, the snow started whispering. Not through the cracks. Not wind. Whispering. Like something was brushing the walls with open palms, sliding around the cabin. I made the mistake of backing toward the door when it happened. The whispering followed me along the wall until it reached the latch. It was finding me. I threw my pack in front of the door and crawled behind the stove. Haven't moved since. Hands won't stop shaking. There's something else I need to write before I forget. When the whispering started, I looked up and noticed a new carving on the beam above the bunk. I didn't carve it. It wasn't here last night. It says, "Don't let it know you're warm." I don't know what that means, but every time the fire flares bright, the whispering gets closer and closer, like it can sense the heat. I think it's inside the walls now. I'm going to try to write instructions, something clear, in case someone finds this. If you hear it inside the shelter. The writing stops mid-stroke. The rest of the page is torn out. Harlow stared at the torn edge until her vision blurred. Slowly she raised the lantern. Above the bunk, in the beam, a fresh-looking carving cut through old wood. "Don't let it know you're warm." The fire popped in the stove. Outside, something heavy dragged along the wall, snow hissing under its weight. Her mind ticked back through the entries. Names swam in her head. Colton, Dana, Evan, Kira, Jonas, R.L. She closed the logbook and dug into the waterproof pouch in her pack. Inside, beneath folded topo maps and printed route notes, were a handful of missing persons bulletins she'd photographed and printed from the ranger station board. It was habit by now. She smoothed them on the bunk with shaking fingers. Colton Reeves, missing November 2019. Solo backcountry guide. SAR suspended. Dana R. Missing February 2020. Last satellite check-in failed. No remains located. Ivan Thomas. Missing April 2021. Gear found near ridge. Hiker not recovered. Kira M. Missing March 2022. Attempted winter traverse. Presumed deceased. Harlow whispered, "No." Every one of those names had just spoken to her out of the past. They had all sat where she was sitting, all written in the logbook, all walked back out into this storm. And not one of them had ever made it home. Her heart hammered, echoing the pulsing wind. She looked toward the door. Something white and stiff fluttered against the inside of it. A page she hadn't noticed before, pinned to the back of the door by a rusty nail. Her stomach knotted. She had walked right past it when she came in. The storm outside inhaled. The wind fell utterly, impossibly silent. She stood, legs stiff, and forced herself closer. The page shivered faintly in a tiny draught. She slid it carefully off the nail and lifted it to the lantern. If you hear it inside the shelter, don't run. Don't make heat. Don't breathe hard. It follows warmth first, sound second, the shape of breath last. Do not let it learn your breath. I think that's how it knows who to take. It copies the pattern, follows the rhythm, listens for the way your lungs. If the room goes completely quiet, that means it's already in. Stay still, stay cold. It's been toying with you, or should I say, us. It wants you to heat the room as much as possible. It can find warm things so much faster. I was stupid thinking the more wood I put on the fire, the safer I would be. I have tricked it twice so far if it is in the cabin. Slow your breathing to nothing if you can. Pretend you're part of the cabin. Pretend you're frozen. If you panic, if you gasp, if you give it even one warm breath. That was it. That's all the torn page said. Her breath fogged in one trembling cloud. The stove sputtered, then went out. The warmth peeled away from her skin in seconds. Silence pressed into the cabin like a held breath. Behind her, something exhaled. Close, too close. Whispers slithered through the wood, curling around the beams, tasting the air. Her lungs screamed for air. She thought of the last line. If you give it even one warm breath. Her chest spasmed. A tiny gasp escaped. The cabin shuddered. The whispers converged. Something drew a long, greedy inhale in her direction. The lantern went out. SAR began looking for her 3 days later when she missed both check-ins. Her route plan gave them a rough corridor, A storm break gave them a narrow window. A helicopter pilot spotted a roof half buried in snow, where no shelter had ever been recorded. They found her pack, a cold meal on the stove, the logbook on the bunk, one loose page on the floor, carvings on the wall, hers "You stay quiet, don't look," and one fresher, "Stay cold." Her footprints led away from the shelter for 30 yards, then ended, one last step, then untouched snow in every direction. When rescuers flew back later that afternoon, the pilot circled the coordinates again. The shelter was gone. Only wind patterns, only snow. But in the quiet moments of storms on Crow's Spine Pass, a few hikers still swear, if the wind drops away suddenly and the silence presses in like a breath being held, you can hear someone else breathing beside you, listening. Well, traveler, the mountains keep their secrets well. Crow's Spine Pass is quiet now, just snow, wind, and the long white stretch where Harlow's footsteps ended. Search teams still talk about that shelter, though. Some swear they landed right beside it. Others insist there was nothing but untouched snow when they arrived. But the logbook was real. The carvings were fresh, and Harlow's pack was exactly where she'd left it. Whatever found her that night, whatever followed her breath in the dark, it didn't leave footprints. So if you ever hike Crow's Spine in winter, if the wind suddenly falls silent, if the cold presses too close, if you feel the presence of someone standing just out of sight, don't gasp, don't breathe warm into the air, because something might be listening, and it remembers every traveler who ever needed shelter. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my short stories, consider subscribing, sharing, and liking the video. It all helps the channel grow and lets my stories reach more people. Sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite.